India's the one country, I believe, that shoots itself in the foot like this. Well, the difference between India and other South Asian countries is the fact that their diasporas can represent their national team.
India turning them away and saying we don't do this, which is, in my opinion, absolutely criminal.
So the longer this goes on, the more of an embarrassment it becomes. The difference between India and other South Asian countries, and this is a credit to the other South Asian countries because they've got this one thing right, which India hasn't, is the fact that their diasporas can represent their national team. So, for example, first person that comes to mind, Zidane Iqbal, can represent Pakistan, and I'm not sure if he has. He probably, I don't know, but he can. Is the point?
Yeah.
Well, to put context on this first before you go on, it's every sport has their criteria because people move around, whatever. Not everyone's got a simple family history where they're just in the same place. But it's particularly prevalent for Indians because they've got the largest diaspora in the world. There's I think 35 or 40 million Indian origin people outside of India. And outside of India is where you're going to find the best sporting pathway. So a lot of people, as we've mentioned, Yan Danda, a couple of others, who are eligible to play for India by the world standards, by FIFA standards, legally allowed to, can't play for India because India's stopping.
Yeah, because India doesn't. Well, you explain it best because you know that India don't allow dual citizenship. So the most important part is actually if you do want to become an Indian citizen, you need to give up your other passport.
Yeah,
which is I think the main factor, which is making it super hard, is you can't obviously hold a dual citizenship. Yeah. Which is a really holding it.
And I don't know. We will need to clarify this over time, but I don't know about the passport situation for other things because who was that player that changed from France to Spain? Laporte.
Yeah, Laporte.
He changed. I don't know if that means that you have to give up your passport because a player that comes to mind about this particular situation, like representing a certain country. Growing up, I remember it's a bit of a rogue shout, Adnan Januzaj. Right? I always mention that because there was always a meme around him being able to represent 7 or 8 countries. And I don't know if he would have had to get the citizenship of that. I think, I don't know, but you might be eligible just by having certain ties. I think. I don't know.
Yeah, because you can. For example, even if they're English, for example, let's just say Brennan Johnson, who now plays for Wales, or Scott McTominay.
Yeah.
They could have represented Scotland if they just had an English grandma.
Yeah, but that's slightly different because it's still the same full country. It's still the UK. You can still work in the UK as a UK citizen. But I'm talking about Michail Antonio. I don't know if he's also got Jamaican passport. Some people might not. I don't know if you have to get it. But the point is,
to require it for
the point is, because India doesn't allow dual nationality, you can only be an OCI at the most, which is an overseas citizen of India. But they can't represent it despite technically being an overseas citizen because for some reason India thinks that. I don't even know how to justify it.
For India, because obviously Pakistan actually allow it, so we'll get onto that, is that a lot of them actually have been open to representing India. It's actually India turning them away and saying we don't do this, which is, in my opinion, absolutely criminal.
Only one player has. It was a Japanese Indian person who gave up their Japanese passport, which is the world's most powerful. I think that's a bit outrageous. I know that's a separate topic, but football's the one thing where that doesn't apply. Because you're allowed to do it. Yeah. So I understand in cricket it's slightly different, right? Because the big story for that was Kevin Peterson. He had an English dad, but he had to be in England for a certain amount of time because cricket rules say that you've got to put in that time to show that you're going to be that. But because football's such a global game, this would be way too complicated to apply to the entire world. Yeah. So they've simplified it. If you have eligibility through a parent of that origin,
or being born there,
a grandparent of that origin, or being born in that country, even if you've got no ethnicity related to it, you can represent it. So it's really easy. India's the one country, I believe, that shoots itself in the foot like this.
Well, because if you're really struggling for talent, you can get talent production from elsewhere, and you'll jump at least 20 or places up the FIFA rankings, because exactly what we talked about in our previous episode about lack of knowledge, lack of football IQ, lack of infrastructure, and lack of education in football is exactly what they're missing. So I think that's absolutely criminal. But let's move on to, for example, Pakistan, who allow British South Asians to play for them. For example, as I mentioned earlier, Otis Khan, who plays for Oldham Athletic. He's now Pakistan captain. He's obviously played in England. Isaiah Sullivan, who was actually England under-21 captain, obviously got his whole football education through Aston Villa. Now obviously plays for Pakistan as well. And there's, I think, Adil Nabi and his brother also play for Pakistan. I think they came up through the West Brom Academy. They're also from Birmingham. And I think that respectively, Adil's played in Greece and now he's in Cyprus. And I think so is his younger brother. I think his younger brother's also playing in Cyprus. So a decent standard of football obviously came through at British Academy. And Pakistan's national team, although they're not as highly ranked as India as of now, you can see them catching up because
100%. They're allowing
people. They're allowing obviously good players from a great education to play for them.
We spoke on the last episode about what India's not able to do at the minute because of like the infrastructure that doesn't exist for the pathways to develop players. But you're also isolating players that are willing to play for you, willing to play for the badge because of their background, that have grown up in places where that exists. So it's like a big part of the job that you're not good at is being done by someone else. But I just think that seems like at the heart of it, I'm sure there'll be a million legal reasons and all sorts of jargon thrown our way to justify it by some people. I think Indian fans overall want this, like football fans want it because they want India to do better and they don't want to wait for the next lifetime to make that happen.
Yeah, that's the perspective we come from.
But yeah, the fact that like someone else is doing that job for you, you've got the resource, should you just give it the thumbs up and you're not doing it, that's what really gets to me. And it would be a different story if you were doing well anyway, right? If you're like, I can't believe I'm doing this comparison.
Then I don't think anyone will question it.
If you were even in North Korea, they've qualified for a World Cup.
I think it's as simple as if, for example, we're British Asian, if we're really good at cricket, why wouldn't we play for India? Like, no one will answer that question because India's already got unreal talent.
Yeah, we're irrelevant in that, but that's not the case with football. And we mentioned last episode about how important it is to build that culture for all the reasons that India's like, everything India's trying to achieve in the coming decades would be boosted by sport and particularly football. The fact that it's got this many people, it's got this much sporting interest, and it's not qualified for a World Cup since 1950, which it didn't even participate in, is a joke. So, yeah, I think that definitely needs to change. And to be honest, I saw that a YouTuber that I follow, he's Hindi only, his name is Dhanraj Durve. I think I'm pronouncing that right, apologies if not. But he follows like Indian football on a day-to-day. So like the content creators in the UK, like he's the guy, I think, that's not like a corporation. It's just his own independent channel. And I saw a video that posted by him like a year ago saying that the new president of the AIFF is doing like a feasibility test to see if they wanted to do this. Could it happen? And in that video, he said that the findings are meant to be shown by January 2024. I looked all over for this episode, nowhere to be found. Typical AIFF, if I'm being honest. But like, I hope it comes out at some stage. I hope he does a follow-up video to it so I understand how like that might impact and where it's gone. And if there's no like a valid answer as to why it's still a no when everyone else is doing it and succeeding from it. The two examples I wanted to give was North Korea, who were able to do it themselves, right? They've played at a higher standard than us. They've qualified for a World Cup that they weren't just invited to. By the way, the 1950 World Cup was just like an invitation from Brazil rather than us qualifying. But it was a given that we were good enough.
No, but not even that. Yeah. They wanted 3 Asian teams in the World Cup.
Was it 3? Oh,
yeah, they wanted 3 Asian teams in the World Cup. So it was India, Philippines, and back in the day it was called something else, but like Myanmar.
Burma.
Burma, there we go. And basically, Philippines and Burma both dropped out.
Right. Game's a game. But the other thing is, I think in that video, Dhanraj mentioned Indonesia, who've gone out of their way to give citizenship to players that they know are eligible through their ethnicity. And they immediately did a lot better in the South Asian Championships. Their World Cup qualification was better. I think they went a round further. They might currently be in that round, actually, like of the World Cup qualifiers. And right now is a better time to qualify than ever. Like if there was ever a time where you take the opportunity, it's now, because the World Cup's being expanded to 48 teams from 32. So the longer this goes on, the more of an embarrassment it becomes, because
But I think
it's easier to qualify.
There's so many just embarrassing stats out there.
Yeah. But it needs to change.
Yeah. It's like Haiti are higher than us.
Yeah.
Kosovo are higher than us. So many teams, basically.
Yeah. That shouldn't have anything to do with it in terms of all the other factors which normally produce a good sports team.